It being 500th year of the introduction of Christianity, I think it behooves us to go back and make a scientific rediscovery of our heritage. Sometimes people like to make the churches look like wedding cakes. Our heritage is meant to be shared to everybody. We have to think of it as a universal resource. I went to the States for a year as an American Field Service scholar right after high school. And I found out that I knew little about the Philippines. I went into anthropology in UP. I got the chance to visit various provinces or churches. I was also in UP at the time. I was a member of the UP Madrigal Singers. And eventually, we got to do 2 European tours, and we performed in many churches. In the beginning, Filipinos had no knowledge of stone, but otherwise, we were building with hardwood, nipa, bamboo. In the first years of the church, the physical church, we found out that fires and storms were very destructive, plus the anay. So they started to build in stone. Pag stone naman, there were a couple of strong earthquakes. I think the best solution there can be seen actually in the convento, where you have the first floor of stone and the upper floor of wood. That is called architectura mestiza. I think one of the primary considerations would be the depiction of God. They also have to find out who would be the patron saint. So you would have these images on the facade. You would have a niche. The most important piece would be the retablo. We have to be very sensitive to surfaces, colors, finishes. The details in the retablo are important. San Agustin Church, for example, in Intramuros, the interior was very colorful. You know, when they took out the pipe organ some years ago to have it restored, they exposed a wall. The colors of the 17th century were revealed, blues and reds and greens. That is a very good evidence of how colorful our churches were. In an ideal setting, the church would be built, say, in the 1600s, and if they had enough money, then all the other decorations would date from the 17th century. But considering the anay, and all the other disasters, you will have a mix of styles in any of these churches. I tell my students, the best way to analyze a church is to go to the back of the church. Kahit yan ang pinakamapanghing at pinakaduming lugar, that's usually the last place to be developed. In our country, there's always the feeling that something is too old or out of style. We cannot stop people from doing what they want in the churches. But I think we can spread the word of better ways of doing things. And one of those is precisely the conservation management plan, where with the heritage church, a heritage meaning anything that is at least 50 years old. But you can also have even younger than 50 years old. Depends on you have to work on the significance. In the conservation management plan, you have to work out what are the significant aspects of the church. Not just the church, but the entire compound. From the gate to the church plaza, to the convento, to the back of the church. So the entire compound, the bell tower, should be considered as one entity. All the heritage of a church is part of the diocese. That's why we need a conservation management plan. People have to sit down to list down the principal assets of the building, the structures, and the spaces. Hindi lang ang parish priest, but he must also convoke other people, interested people. When they go inspect the church, the trusses are of wood. Some people may say, inaanay na yan eh, babaksak na yan. So you must have a wood specialist or an engineer to look if talagang babaksak ba yung mga trusses na yan. I've been to a church where sabi ng isang pare, ay, babaksak na yan eh, kaya pinatatanggal ko na. Later on, when I went to the church, tinanggal ng bubong. That is a very rare 19th century truss system. You can't find this kind of truss work anymore. Transparency is very important in the conservation management plan. You should also have an inventory of the objects in the church and in the convento. Ideally, somebody who would know these things. As a rejoinder to the conservation management plan, there has to be a formation of researchers, ideally, who can read Spanish. If the conservation management plan is done well, na lahat nakasalang dyan, kahit sinong pumalit na parish priest, meron na nakasulat doon. All the more universities like UST, like our university, the universities have a very big responsibility in preparing the youth to carry the message. We need bringers of this message to others, because the university will not get to the public by itself. No? So we train people, so we must be very careful on how we treat our heritage and prepare it to be received by the next generations.